Blood dripped from her wrists into the red Wyoming dust. And I knew right then, I was about to throw away everything I'd built. 45 years old, and there I was, kneeling beside a dying Apache woman under that old willow tree by Crow Creek. Her chest hitched in little ragged poles, black hair stuck to the sweat on them, bronze shoulders like wet rope. Half gone as she was, something in her face snagged the air right out of my lungs. Like staring down a mare that'd sooner kick your teeth in than take a bit the smart thing right away. Apache justice wasn't my business. But as I felt for the pulse at her throat, as I saw those leather bindings cutting into torn skin, I heard my dead wife's voice in my memory. Sarah used to say a man's measure ain't taken in front of a crowd. It's what he does with the wind in his face and nobody to see. Hell, sometimes the law and what's right don't even ride the same trail. And when they split, well, you pay in blood or regret. Ever save someone knowing it might destroy you? Stick around. This story gets a hell of a lot more complicated. And if you're the kind who appreciates tales from when the West was still wild, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. My ranch sat 30 miles from Cheyenne, where the prairie stretched so endless it made a man feel both free and small. I'd chosen that isolation after burying my wife, Sarah, and our 2 children. 3 winters passed. Influenza swept through Wyoming like wildfire that year, taking everyone I loved in less than a week. Just the wind hissed through the grass, and a few cows bawling somewhere off made it easy to blame the hurt in my ribs on thin air. I was checking fence line near the creek when I saw her, a splash of color against red earth that didn't belong. My gelding shied hard, damn near dumped me, hooves scrabbling like he'd seen the devil. I pulled my Winchester and approached on foot. She lay crumpled beneath that ancient willow, hands bound with rawhide buckskin, dress torn and bloody. Somebody laid into her with a quart till the hide split purple ridges, standing up like fresh plowed furrows. Apache I could tell from the turquoise beadwork and silver bracelets catching afternoon sun. But it was her face that stopped me cold. High cheekbones, full lips, parted skin like polished copper. Maybe 22, 23 at most, too damn young to die like this. I'd learned enough Apache during my cavalry days to recognize the sage smoke in her hair. Purification ceremony herbs. This wasn't random violence, this was tribal punishment. My practical mind cataloged the dangers. Apache war parties still raided through here. The army was cracking down hard. Getting involved could mean death for both of us. But as I watched her struggle for each breath, I heard Sarah again, and I knew I couldn't ride away. "Ah, hell," I muttered. I cut the bindings with my knife, careful around the torn skin. I scooped her up. Christ, she weighed less than a saddle. And them eyes cracked open. Amber catching the last light. Amber like good whiskey. Even broken, they held such fierce pride that something long dormant stirred in my gut. "Easy now," I said softly. "You're safe." She tried to speak but only managed to croak. When she attempted to push away, her strength failed completely. The ride back was a torture of a different kind. She was barely conscious, her body limp against mine. Every step my horse took pressed her soft curves more intimately against my chest and thighs. The scent of sage and leather and something uniquely feminine filled my nostrils. It had been 3 years since I'd held a woman. My body responded despite the circumstances, despite my shame at such thoughts while she lay dying. By the time we reached my cabin, the sun was setting behind the mountains, painting the sky the same red gold as her skin. You judging me for that, friend? Maybe you should. But I'm telling you what happened, not what should have happened. My cabin was rough but clean, 2 rooms, stone fireplace, walls lined with books Sarah had insisted on. I laid her on my own bed, heated water, gathered clean cloth. I dabbed the blood off her back, trying not to stare at how the knobs of her spine stuck out under skin, gone thin as parchment from hurt. Then she jerked awake and rolled away, a knife appearing in her hand like magic. All clinical detachment vanished. "Stay back," she said, English accented but clear. I raised my hands, water bowl balanced in one easy motion. "I'm not going to hurt you." "You, White, you think all you touch is yours." Her amber eyes blazed with hatred and pain. I thought she was done with trust, but whatever she saw on my face made her lower the blade slightly.
"Why?" she whispered. "'Cause leaving you, hell, that would make me smaller than the shadow I already cast," I said.
We stared across that small room, lamp glow making her cheekbones sharper, and that buckskin slid down one shoulder, showing the soft rise where a man's hand might rest if he dared. I forced myself to look away. "I am Ayana," she said finally. "Flower that blooms forever. But they said I could no longer carry that name." "What's your crime?" I asked. Her laugh was bitter. "I refused to marry the man they chose. He already had 2 wives. He beat them. I said no." Something shifted in my chest. Anger at whoever hurt her, but also recognition. Another soul punished for choosing their own path. "Well," I said carefully, "in my house, a woman's no means no, and you can call yourself whatever name feels right." "Anna," she said after a pause. "I learned it from missionary school. It means grace." "Anna it is," I said. Then I gestured to the water. "Will you let me clean these wounds? They'll fester if we don't tend them proper." This time when I touched her, she didn't pull away. My calloused fingers were gentle, and I tried to ignore how she shivered when I traced the cloth along her collarbone, the soft gasp at particularly tender spots. "You have done this before," she said quietly. "Doctoring war teaches a man many things, not all of them about killing," I replied. As I worked, she studied my face, weathered lines around green eyes, gray threading through brown hair, the quiet competence in my movements. "You're a woman," Anna said, noticing the feminine touches around the cabin, curtains, wildflowers in a jar. "Where is she?" My hands stilled. "Buried on the hill behind the house. Her and our 2 children, 3 winters past," I said softly. "I am sorry," she whispered. I could hear it in her voice. "That is why you live alone." "Seems safer that way. Can't lose what you don't have." Anna reached out almost without thinking and touched my cheek. The intimacy surprised us both, but neither pulled away. "Safe sometimes, it's just another cage. Only you hold the key from inside." Damn if she wasn't right about that. In the days that followed, Anna proved she was more than just a beautiful face. She could handle horses like she was born to it, knew which plants healed and which killed, could track game across ground that looked empty to my eyes. Pride sat in her like a splinter you can't dig out. When she was strong enough to walk, she insisted on earning her keep. I'd find her mending tack, grinding corn, tending my vegetable garden with expertise that made my efforts look clumsy. "You don't owe me anything," I told her one morning. Watching her repair a bridle with intricate beadwork that turned plain leather into art. "I owe myself," she replied without looking up. "I will not be a burden to any man again." But it was the small moments that undid me. The way she hummed while working, soft Apache melodies that made my chest tight. How she'd stand on the porch at sunset, wind pressing her skirt against the curve of her hips and thighs while she watched the sky burn. The way she moved. Hell, even tying her hair back looked like it had its own rhythm. 3 weeks in, she caught me staring while she hung laundry. Our eyes met across the yard, and something electric passed between us. acknowledgement of desire we'd both been pretending didn't exist. That evening, she prepared rabbit stew seasoned with wild sage. We ate in comfortable silence until she spoke. "Tell me about her, your woman." I set down my spoon. "Why?" "Because she lives in this house still. I see her in how you fold clothes, set the table." She was gentle. Sarah, she was morning light you could wrap around your shoulders. Believed in the good in everyone. I smiled sadly.
"Would have loved you, I think," she always said.
Strength and kindness weren't opposites, just different ways of caring. Anna watched me over her cup. "And you? Do you see kindness in me?" The question hung in the air like smoke. When I looked at her, really looked, I saw a woman who had survived betrayal and violence, who worked harder than any man I knew, who could gentle a wild horse with whispers and kill a rattlesnake with a thrown rock. "I see someone who chooses to heal rather than harm," I said finally. Despite having every reason to hate the world, Anna rose and moved to stand before the fire. Silhouette outlined in gold, when she began pulling pins from her hair, my breath caught. That dark mass tumbled over her shoulders like a waterfall, and she shook it out with unconscious sensuality. Apache way, hair down only for the man who owns your nights. She turned, amber eyes holding mine steadily. "But I am no longer of that tribe, and you have shown me what respect looks like." The air between us crackled. I stood slowly, every muscle aware of her nearness, the warmth radiating from her skin, how firelight played across the hollow of her throat. "Anna." My voice came out rougher than intended. She stepped closer, close enough that I could smell sage in her hair, see the pulse beating at her temple. "Do you want me to leave?" "God, no." The words tore from me, but I won't take advantage. She silenced me with a finger pressed to my lips. What if I am the one who wants to take? When she kissed me, it was soft at first, tentative, questioning, but when I responded, groaning low in my throat, pulling her against me, she came alive. Her mouth opened under mine, and suddenly we were devouring each other with the desperate hunger of two people alone. Too long my hands tangled in her hair, while hers mapped the breadth of my shoulders. She was all soft curves and warm skin. When she pressed closer, aligning our bodies perfectly, I thought I might lose my mind. "Anna," I gasped against her throat. "Are you sure?" Instead of answering, she began unbuttoning my shirt, fingers sure and swift. When she pushed the fabric aside and pressed her lips to my chest, right over my racing heart, my control shattered completely. I swept her up and carried her to my bed, laying her down like she was made of precious things in lamplight. She was golden and beautiful, watching me with eyes that held no fear, only want. We came together clumsily at first, then fierce, like two people trying to crawl inside each other's skin before the world took it back. Years of loneliness melted away as we came together. Anna was generous and demanding, showing me that passion could be tender, that desire could be sacred. She moved beneath me with a grace that took my breath away, her body responding to every touch like music. When she gasped my name, fingers digging into my shoulders, when she arched against me with that final, shuddering release, I felt something in my chest crack open. Something I'd thought died with Sarah. Afterward, we lay tangled in sheets, her head on my chest, my fingers threading through her hair. I never thought I could feel this way again. "Nor I," she whispered, "but perhaps some things are worth the risk of feeling." "You thinking I'm a fool, partner?" "Maybe, but when you've been dead inside for 3 years, when someone brings you back to life, you don't question it. You just hold on."